The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets overhead, but all I could hear was the slam of the locker door echoing my heartbeat. Jordan's hand lingered on the metal, his fingers brushing mine just long enough to send a spark up my arm, before he pulled away like I'd burned him. "Alex," he whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. "Last night, it wasn't a mistake, was it?" I froze, the hallway a blur of slamming doors and distant laughter. My backpack heavy against my shoulder, as if it carried the weight of every secret we'd buried. His eyes, those storm-gray eyes that had once mocked me from across the cafeteria, now pleaded, raw and unguarded, pulling me into a gravity I couldn't escape. But then the bell rang, sharp as a slap, and he was gone, vanishing into the crowd like smoke, leaving me clutching a crumpled note that read, "Meet me after practice. Please." The rain came down in sheets that afternoon, turning the football field into a muddy battlefield under the sodium glow of the stadium lights. Evergreen High's bleachers were empty except for me, huddled under a threadbare hoodie that smelled faintly of my mom's lavender detergent. I'd skipped the last period study hall to come here, my sneakers sinking into the wet grass as I watched Jordan sprint drills, his breath fogging the air like desperate prayers. He was the star quarterback, the golden boy of this sleepy Oregon town, where the biggest scandal was the time Coach Harlan got caught jaywalking. And I was Alex Rivera, the kid who fixed the AV Club projectors and dreamed in colors no one else could see. It started 6 months ago, back when the leaves were turning that fiery red that makes you believe in second chances. Jordan had cornered me in the art room after school, his broad shoulders blocking the door like he owned the space, which, in a way, he did. "Rivera," he'd snarled, tossing a crumpled sketch I'd drawn of him onto the table. It was from memory, captured during one of those brutal PE classes where he'd lob dodgeballs at my head like grenades. The drawing showed him mid-throw, muscles taut, face alive with that cocky grin that hid something sharper, something broken. "What the hell is this? You some kind of stalker?" I'd stammered, heat flooding my cheeks, expecting the punchline, the laughter that would ripple through the halls by morning. But instead, he picked up the paper, studying it with a frown that deepened the lines around his mouth. "It's good," he muttered almost to himself. Then he was gone, crumpling it into his pocket instead of shredding it. That was the hook. The next day he was at my locker, not with a shove or a slur, but with a quiet, "Hey," just that. And from there the notes began, folded precisely, slipped into the vent like contraband. "Your drawings make me look less like an asshole. Thanks. Then saw you in the library. You read that poet guy? The one about stars and shit?" I started leaving replies, sketches of coffee mugs for his late-night study sessions, quotes scribbled on napkins about boys who chase shadows. We met in Stolen Moments, the abandoned greenhouse behind the science wing, where the air hung thick with forgotten tomato vines. The rooftop access during lunch, accessible only if you knew to jiggle the latch just right. There, under skies that stretched endless like the Pacific horizon, Jordan would talk. Not the polished bullshit he fed his teammates, but the real stuff. How his dad's belt left welts that faded slower than the shame. How he'd known he was different since he was 12, watching the other boys chase girls at the county fair while his eyes lingered on the way the Ferris wheel lights caught in a guy's hair. "I hate it, Alex," he'd say, voice low and fierce, his knee brushing mine in the dark. "Hate that I can't just be." I'd listen, my heart a wild thing in my chest, and trace the veins on his hand with my pinky, marveling at how something so strong could tremble. Our first kiss was tentative, born of a thunderstorm that trapped us in the old equipment shed. Rain hammered the tin roof like applause, and when his lips met mine, soft, questioning, tasting of Gatorade and salt, it felt like the world cracking open. No fireworks, no violins, just the quiet certainty that this was home. But secrets in a town like Evergreen don't stay buried. They fester like the mold in the corners of the gym showers. Jordan's best friend, Tyler, started noticing first. Tyler with his buzz cut and perpetual smirk, the enforcer who made sure no one crossed the line. "You been weird, man," he'd say during practice, clapping Jordan on the back a little too hard. "Hanging with that artsy freak? What's your deal?" Jordan laughed it off, the sound brittle as autumn leaves. Nah, just borrowing notes. Kid's got a brain under all that emo hair. But his eyes would find mine across the field, apologetic, and I'd nod, pretending it didn't carve a little deeper each time. By winter, the notes evolved into plans. Cabin by the lake. Midnight. Bring your sketchpad. The cabin was his uncle's, forgotten on the edge of Tillamook State Forest, a relic from summers long past. We drove separately, my beat-up Civic rattling like bones, his truck gleaming under the moon. Inside, the air was crisp with pine and dust, the fireplace crackling as we huddled on a threadbare quilt. That night, we didn't need words. His head on my chest, my fingers in his hair. We mapped constellations on the ceiling, whispering futures where college meant freedom, where we could walk hand in hand without whispers trailing like smoke. I love you, he said at first, the words slipping out like a confession in the confessional. I echoed them back, and for a moment it was enough. But dawn brings clarity, and with it, the gnawing fear that love like ours was a luxury evergreen couldn't afford. Spring brought prom, that garish ritual of tool and bad decisions. Jordan begged me not to go. It's bullshit anyway, he said, tossing a football against the chain-link fence after practice. But I saw the posters everywhere, glittering promises of normalcy, and something in me rebelled. I'll go alone, I told him. Wear that ridiculous bow tie you hate. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. The night of, I stood in front of the mirror in my thrift store suit, the fabric stiff against my skin, and thought of my abuela back in Portland, who'd sewn sequins on my sleeves and said, Mijo, shine for those who can't. The gym was a fever dream of blue streamers and thumping bass, bodies swaying under disco lights that made everyone look like ghosts. I danced alone at first, letting the rhythm pull the loneliness from my bones. Then Tyler appeared, beer breath hot on my neck. Rivera, right? Jordan's little charity case. His words slurred, eyes glassy. Heard you two been cozy. That true. My stomach dropped, but I held his gaze. Jealous. It was bravado, thin as paper, but it landed. Tyler's face twisted, and he shoved me hard into the punch bowl. Sticky red liquid soaked my shirt, laughter erupting like gunfire. I stumbled back, vision blurring, and that's when Jordan burst through the crowd, face thunderous. Back off, Ty, he roared, shoving his friend so hard Tyler hit the bleachers. The music stuttered, eyes turning our way. Jordan grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the exit, but Tyler's voice cut through. What the fuck, man? You defending him? Over me? The gym went silent, a vacuum sucking the air from my lungs. Jordan froze, his grip on me tightening like a vice. It's not, he started, but Tyler was on him, fists flying in a blur of betrayal. Punches landed, Jordan's nose blooming red, Tyler's knuckles splitting, and then it was chaos. Chaperones shouting, girls screaming, the principal's voice booming over the speakers. They dragged them apart, Jordan's eyes locking on mine across the fray, wild with something between terror and triumph. Alex? He gasped, blood trickling from his lip, but the words drowned in the melee. I slipped out the side door into the night, the rain starting again, cold and unrelenting, washing the punch from my skin but not the ache from my chest. The fallout hit like a Pacific squall, swift and unforgiving. By Monday, the school was a tinderbox of whispers and side eyes. Fairy fight? Someone scrawled on my locker in Sharpie, the letters bleeding like wounds. I scrubbed it with my thumbnail until it was raw, but the damage lingered, invisible ink under my skin. Jordan didn't show up that morning. No quiet hope waiting by the dented metal door. Instead, the halls felt wider, emptier, each step echoing my isolation. I found him at lunch, tucked in the far corner of the cafeteria, nursing a black eye that swelled his cheek like rising dough. Tyler sat across from him, arm in a sling from the night's brawl, their usual crew orbiting like wary satellites. Jordan's gaze flicked to me as I passed with my tray, watery mashed potatoes and a bruised apple, holding mine for a beat too long before dropping. No nod, no smile. just the slow grind of a door slamming shut. After school, I waited by the bike racks, the air thick with the scent of wet asphalt and distant bonfires. He emerged from the locker room, duffel slung over his good shoulder, hair still damp from a shower. "Alex," he said, voice rough as gravel. "We gotta talk." We walked to the edge of the parking lot, where the chain link met the woods, the same spot where we'd first shared a stolen cigarette last fall. His hands were jammed in his pockets, knuckles white. "Ty knows about us. He cornered me after the fight. Said he'd tell everyone unless I ended it." The word hung there, heavy as the rain clouds massing on the horizon. Ended it. Like we were a bad habit, a fleeting game. My throat tightened, words failing me. So I just stared at the ground, watching an ant haul a crumb twice its size. And I finally managed, voice barely above the rustle of leaves. He pulled out the note from his pocket, the one I'd slipped him that morning, a quick sketch of us as explorers on a map marked X. He tore it in half, then quarters, the pieces fluttering to the mud like confetti from a funeral. I told him to fuck off, but Coach heard, pulled me aside, said if there's funny business, I'm off the team. Dad found out too, threw my helmet across the garage, screaming about legacy and disappointment. Jordan's voice cracked on the last word, and he leaned against the fence, head bowed. I reached for him, my hand on his arm, feeling the tremor beneath the sleeve. "Jordan, we can." "No." He shrugged me off, gentle but firm, like shaking water from a coat. "Not like this. Not with everything crashing down. You're everything, Alex. But I can't drag you through this shit. My family's barely holding on, mom's meds, dad's shifts at the mill. If they knew." He trailed off, eyes glistening. The boy who'd tackled linebackers reduced to this fragile outline. I wanted to argue, to list the ways we'd already rewritten the rules. The mixtapes I'd burned with songs about outlaws and open roads, the promises we'd carved into the greenhouse glass with a stolen X-Acto knife. But the defeat in his posture stopped me. "So that's it," I whispered. "One fight, and we're done?" He looked at me then, really looked, his gray eyes stormy with unshed tears. "I don't know how to do this without breaking us both." And with that, he walked away, his silhouette shrinking against the setting sun, leaving me with the echo of ripping paper and the bitter taste of what-ifs. The weeks that followed were a slow bleed. Jordan avoided my locker, my classes, the rooftop, erased himself from my orbit like a comet slingshotting into void. I threw myself into art club, sketching feverishly. Fractured portraits of him, his laugh lines etched in charcoal, his hands. Those quarterback hands, clutching footballs that morphed into hearts mid-throw. Ms. Hargrove, our advisor with her silver-streaked bun and knowing smiles, noticed. "Pour it out, Alex," she'd say, handing me fresh canvases. "The hurt makes the beauty." But beauty felt like a lie when Tyler started his campaign. It was subtle at first, tripping me in the hall, accidentally spilling soda on my sketchbook during study hall. Then bolder, graffiti in the bathroom stalls. "Rivera's a fag?" "Ask Jay." Whispers that followed me like shadows. I reported it once, to the counselor, Mrs. Ellis, who patted my hand and murmured about teen angst before suggesting I toughen up. Evergreen's idea of progress was a rainbow sticker on the office door, peeling at the edges. One night, the dam broke. I was in my room, posters of Van Gogh and Frida curling at the corners, when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Miss you. Parking lot." Now, my heart lurched, traitorous, and I was out the window before reason caught up, scaling the trellis like a thief in my own life. Jordan was there, leaning against his truck, the bed loaded with camping gear under the sodium streetlight. His face was a map of bruises, fading from the fight, new from practices that left him limping. "Road trip," he said, no preamble, tossing me a duffel. "Just us. Get away before it swallows us whole." I hesitated, the night air crisp with pine and possibility. "Your folks. They're at the casino till Sunday. Ty's pissed, but screw him. I told Coach I'm sick, mono or some shit." He grinned, that lopsided one that crinkled his eyes, and it was like the sun breaking through. Come on, Alex. One weekend. No secrets, no town. Just us. We drove east, windows down, the radio blasting Springsteen anthems about Born to Run hearts. The forest thickened around us, Douglas firs towering like sentinels, until we hit the old logging road that led to Crater Lake. The cabin was smaller than I remembered, a sagging A-frame with a porch that creaked under our weight. Inside, we built a fire, the flames dancing shadows on the walls as we unpacked. Canned beans, a six-pack he'd swiped from his dad's fridge, my sketchpad. That night, we lay on the lumpy mattress, stars visible through the skylight, Orion's belt winking like it knew our secrets. Jordan traced my ribs with his fingertips, light as breath. I lied, he murmured, voice muffled against my shoulder. About ending it. I can't. You're the only real thing I've got. I turned to him, our foreheads touching, breaths mingling. Then don't. Fight for this. For us. The kiss that followed was deeper, laced with the urgency of borrowed time. Lips and whispers, hands mapping familiar territories with renewed wonder. No rush, no desperation. Just the quiet affirmation that love could be a refuge, even in the wild. Morning brought coffee black as the lake, and we hiked the rim trail, the water below a sapphire mirror reflecting jagged peaks. Jordan carried the backpack, teasing me about my city legs, but his hand found mine on the switchbacks, squeezing like an anchor. At the summit, we sat on a boulder, legs dangling over the abyss, sharing dreams. Him studying kinesiology at Oregon State, me pursuing graphic design in Portland, weekends in a tiny apartment with exposed brick and a cat named after a constellation. But the idol cracked on the drive back. My phone, silenced in the glove box, lit up with missed calls. Mom, school, an unknown. Jordan glanced over, jaw tightening. Ignore it. I didn't. The voicemail was from Mrs. Ellis. Alex, we need to talk. There's been an incident. My stomach nodded as I scrolled texts. Where are you? Ty's saying shit. From Jordan's phone. To, dude. Where TF are you? Coach is freaking. He pulled over at a scenic overlook, the Columbia River gorge stretching below like a wound. What is it? He asked, but his face said he already knew. Ty, I said flatly. He's talking. Jordan's hands gripped the wheel until the leather creaked. That son of a... I told him to drop it. He punched the dash, the crack echoing. Then quieter. Maybe we go back, face it together. Tell everyone. Fuck the consequences. The hope in his voice was a knife twist, brave, reckless, everything I loved. But reality intruded. His scholarship hanging by a thread, my family's quiet acceptance that wouldn't shield us from the town's venom. Together, I echoed, but doubt shadowed the word. We returned under cover of dusk, the truck's headlights cutting through fog like accusations. Evergreen greeted us with its usual indifference, the mill whistle blowing, porch lights flickering on. But at school the next day, the air was electric, charged with malice. Lockers slammed harder, glances lingered longer. Tyler waited by the entrance, arms crossed, a fresh cut above his eye from who knows what. Welcome back, lovebirds, he sneered, loud enough for the cluster of cheerleaders to giggle. Jordan stiffened beside me, but I stepped forward. Jealousy's ugly, Tyler, especially when it's this transparent. The laughter died, replaced by a hush. Tyler's face reddened, veins bulging in his neck. You think you're hot shit, Rivera? Jordan's just slumming it. Wait till the team hears. Jordan surged forward, but I grabbed his arm. Let him. Truth's the best weapon. We walked past, shoulders brushing, a united front that felt like armor. But armor cracks. That afternoon, during weight training, Coach pulled Jordan aside. I watched from the bleachers, pretending to doodle, as their voices rose. Clipped words about distractions and priorities. Jordan emerged pale, helmet dangling from his fingers. He didn't look my way. The betrayal came swift, a dagger in the ribs. I was at my locker after final bell when the crowd parted. Teammates, Tyler at the helm, Jordan trailing like a ghost. Tell him, Jay, Tyler goaded, shoving a phone in my face. It was a video, grainy from the cabin's skylight. Us, tangled in the firelight, lips meeting in that stolen tenderness. My blood roared in my ears. Jordan. The word was a plea, a prayer. He wouldn't meet my eyes, staring at the scuffed linoleum. I didn't. Ty took my phone last week. Swiped it when I was showering. But his voice wavered, and Tyler's grin was triumphant. Liar. I breathed, the pieces slotting. The unlocked phone in the duffel, the sick day that gave Tyler access to the truck. Jordan had known, had to have known, and said nothing. Alex, Jordan started, but Tyler cut in. He's using you, freak. QB needs his rep clean for scouts. The hall spun, faces blurring into a jury. I shoved past, the video's echo burning behind my eyes, and ran. Out the doors, into the parking lot where rain lashed the asphalt like judgment. Home was a sanctuary of sorts, the Rivera house on Elm Street with its sagging picket fence and herb garden out back, where Mom grew cilantro that could wake the dead. I burst through the door, slamming it hard enough to rattle the windows, and collapsed onto the couch, sobs racking me like fever chills. The betrayal wasn't just the video. It was the silence. The choice Jordan made to let Tyler's poison spread rather than stand with me. We'd built something fragile, beautiful, and he'd let it shatter for the illusion of safety. Mom found me there, her apron dusted with flour from tamales she was prepping for Abuela's birthday. Rosa Rivera, with her laugh lines and unyielding faith, didn't pry at first. She just sat beside me, rubbing circles on my back like I was 5 again. Skinned knee from the playground. Corazon, she said softly. The heart breaks to make room for more. I spilled it then, halting at first, then in a torrent. The notes, the kisses, the cabin dreams. Her face softened. No shock, just a quiet nod. I've known you were gay since you were 14, Mijo. The way you looked at that boy band poster? Not subtle. She chuckled, but her eyes were wet. Love's a risk, Alex. But hiding it? That's the real thief. Dad came home from the garage, grease under his nails, and listened too, his silence heavier than words. Javier Rivera, mechanic by trade, storyteller by heart, squeezed my shoulder. In my village back in Michoacan, they said love was like tequila. Burns going down, but warms you through the night. Don't let fear sour it. Their words were balm, but the wound festered. School became a minefield. The video circulated like wildfire, Snickers in class, deleted from servers but etched in memory. Tyler's crew escalated. Slashed tires on my Civic, fag keyed into the hood. I skipped football games. The roar of the crowd now a dirge, but Jordan's absence was louder than any cheer. He tried reaching out, notes in my locker, I'm sorry. Let me explain. Texts at 2 a.m. It wasn't me. Please. I deleted them unread, the trust a casualty of that hallway confrontation. But doubt crept in, insidious as ivy. What if Tyler had orchestrated it alone? Jordan's eyes that day haunted, not hateful. I caught glimpses of him in the halls, thinner, shadows under his eyes, his throws wild during practice. The breaking point came mid-May, with graduation looming like a guillotine. The senior prank committee, ironically Tyler's domain, planned something big, releasing Chicken's dyed school colors into the quad. I was roped in by default, AV kid handling the diversion lights. But as we prepped in the drama room, strings of LEDs coiled like snakes. Tyler cornered me. Still crying over your boyfriend? He jeered. Close enough I could smell his Axe body spray. Jordan's done with you. Told me himself. Said you were a phase, a joke. The lie landed like a gut punch, but I saw the bluff in his twitchy smile. Prove it, I challenged, heart hammering. Ask him right now. Tyler's eyes narrowed, and he pulled out his phone, dialing on speaker. The ringtone echoed Jordan's, that old Nirvana track we danced to in the greenhouse. Ty? What's up? Jordan's voice wary. Tyler thrust the phone at me. Tell artsy boy here it's over. No more fairy tales. Silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. Then, soft but steel, Fuck you, Tyler. It's not over. Never was. The line went dead, and Tyler's face crumpled, mask slipping to reveal the rot beneath. Jealousy not just of me, but of Jordan's light, the ease he'd never possess. You little shit, Tyler hissed, lunging. I dodged, grabbing a prop sword from the costume rack. Foam, but heavy enough to swing. He backed off, laughing bitterly. You're both freaks. Wait till the team benches him. But the seed was planted. That night, I met Jordan at our spot, the rooftop, accessible now with the latch oiled from habit. He was there, pacing, the city lights of Portland distant on the horizon. Alex, he breathed as I climbed up, pulling me into an embrace that smelled of turf and tears. I should have fought harder. The video. Ty hacked my passcode weeks ago, when I was crashing at his after a fight with Dad. I found out too late, deleted what I could, but it spread. Why didn't you tell me? The question was a sob, muffled in his jacket. Fear, he admitted, pulling back to cup my face. Scared it'd end us. But losing you? That's worse than any scandal. His thumbs brushed my cheeks, erasing salt tracks. I love you, Alex. For the sketches, the quiet, the way you see me. Not the jersey, but the mess underneath. We kissed then, under a canopy of stars, the city humming below like a lullaby. It was absolution, raw and real, sealing cracks with whispered vows. No more hiding, we'd face the storm together. The climax unfolded at the prank's apex, dawn breaking over the quad. Chickens clucked chaos, feathers flying as seniors hooped, but Tyler had twisted it. Hidden speakers blaring the video on loop, my humiliation broadcast for the bleary-eyed faculty. I froze mid-setup, lights flickering erratically, the gym a coliseum of judgment. Then Jordan appeared, megaphone in hand, stolen from the pep squad. Turn it off, he bellowed, voice cracking the feed. He vaulted the stage, yanking cords with frantic hands, the screen going black mid-kiss. The crowd murmured, phones raised like torches. Tyler shoved through, face feral. You traitor, defending that. Jordan faced him, chest heaving. Yeah, because it's true. I love him. The words detonated, silence swallowing the quad. Gasps rippled, then applause. Scattered at first, from the theater kids, the quiet allies who'd watched from afar. Coach Harlan stepped forward, arms crossed, but his nod was subtle approval. Tyler swung, fist connecting with Jordan's jaw, but Jordan didn't fall. He tackled Tyler instead, pinning him in a hold from wrestling practice, not to hurt but to hold. Enough, man. This isn't you. We're brothers. Act like it. Security swarmed, hauling Tyler away as he spat curses, the fight draining from him like air from a punctured ball. Jordan turned to me, blood on his lip, extending a hand. I took it, pulling him close amid the feathers and fading echoes. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Suspensions, parent meetings, a school assembly on inclusivity that felt more like damage control. Dad confronted Jordan's father at the mill, two immigrants trading stories over lukewarm coffee, belts and disappointments forging unlikely bridges. Mom baked empanadas for the Harlans, her way of saying welcome. Graduation came under blue skies, caps tossed like confetti into the ether. Jordan and I sat rows apart, but our pinkies linked under chairs, a secret tether. His speech, valedictorian surprise, spoke of horizons, of loving fiercely in small towns that teach you to dream big. We are not defined by our falls, he said, eyes finding mine, but by who catches us. Summer stretched before us. Road trips to the coast, sketches of salt spray sunsets, Jordan's arm around my shoulders as waves lapped our feet. College loomed. Separate paths, him to Corvallis, me to Portland, but we'd mapped the miles, visits penciled like promises. Betrayal had scarred us, but it honed the love sharper, more resilient. In Evergreen, change came slow. A GSA club sprouting like spring weeds, Tyler's apology letter from juvie, halting, human. And us? We were the quiet revolution. Two boys who'd laughed at fear and found hope waiting at the dawn. Yet life, that capricious muse, had one more twist. Fall brought letters, Jordan's scholarship intact, mine with a gallery internship attached. But in the bustle of move-in day, as boxes piled in dorms miles apart, doubt whispered again. Late-night calls bridged the gap, his voice a lifeline. Miss your sketches. Miss your stupid grin. I'd counter, and we'd laugh, the sound weaving us tighter. Winter break reunited us at the cabin, snow blanketing the lake like forgiveness. There, by the fire, he knelt. Not with rings, but with a sketch I'd drawn years ago, the one he'd kept. Marry me? He asked, years from legal but hearts ahead. I said yes, tears freezing on lashes. Our story wasn't fairy tale. No dragon slain in single blows, but human, messy, profound. Betrayal taught us vigilance. Conflict forged our steel. Climax crowned our courage. In America's vast tapestry, we were a thread, gay, resilient, unapologetic. And in each other's arms, we found the hope that waits, patient as morning light. Years folded like accordions, compressing evergreen into memory's rearview. Portland claimed me first. The city's pulse a symphony of streetcars and coffee roasts. My apartment a sun-drenched loft overlooking the Willamette, canvases leaning like sentinels. I freelanced illustrations for indie zines, my style. Raw lines laced with emotion. Catching eyes at galleries where hipsters sipped IPAs and nodded sagely. Jordan thrived in Corvallis, kinesiology degree morphing into physical therapy at a clinic for injured vets. His hands, once hurling spirals, now mending what war had broken. Distance tested us. Weekends devoured by Amtrak rides and hurried embraces in station cafes. This city's too loud, he'd grumble, nuzzling my neck amid the din, missed the quiet with you. But we grew, roots deepening separately before twining back. The real storm brewed in summer of 28, when Tyler resurfaced. I'd half forgotten him. Vague Facebook shadow, tagged in Milltown barbecues, but a call from Jordan shattered the haze. He's in Portland. Rehab. Crashed his truck, DUI. Asking for us. We met at a dive-off Burnside. Neon flickering like faulty synapses. Tyler looked hollowed. Buzz-cut grown shaggy. Eyes sunken in a face etched by regret. Heard you two made it, he said over greasy burgers, voice gravel from disuse. Good. Deserve it. Jordan tensed beside me, fork midway to mouth. Why now? Tyler shrugged, tracing condensation on his glass. Hit bottom. Lost the job, the girl. Ironic, huh? Realized I was the villain in my own story. That video. I was scared, man. Of losing you. Of what it meant about me. The admission hung, vulnerable as exposed wire. No excuses, just truth. Tyler's barbs stemmed from his own buried doubts, lashing out to bury them deeper. We talked till closing, halting bridges over chasms. Forgiveness not instant, but seeded. From there, life wove intricate patterns. Jordan proposed properly in 30, on the Crater Lake rim where it had all ignited, ring simple platinum with an emerald inlay. His birthstone, my favorite color. The wedding was small. Evergreen church with rainbow banners fluttering defiantly. Mom's tamales alongside Jordan's dad's ribs. Tyler as uneasy best man. Toasting with soda instead of shots. Honeymoon in the Cascades. Cabin fever of a different sort. Lazy mornings tangled in flannel. Hikes where we named peaks after inside jokes. Back home, we bought a fixer-upper in Beaverton. Suburbs whispering of picket fences but yielding to our herb garden and pride flag on the porch. Challenges came, as they do. Jordan's burnout from long shifts. My dry spells when commissions dried up like summer creeks. Arguments flared. Over forgotten anniversaries. Whose turn to load the dishwasher. But cooled with apologies etched in post-its. Sketches of us as superheroes weathering storms. Then the pinnacle. Adopting Luca in 34. A wiry 7-year-old from the foster system with eyes like Jordan's. Storm gray, searching. His first night, curled between us on the couch during a Pixar marathon. He whispered, "You guys are for real?" We nodded, throats tight, and in that moment, our love expanded, beyond two, into family. Luca brought chaos and color. Soccer games where Jordan coached with boundless energy. Art classes where I taught him to blend shadows into light. Tyler visited Uncle by choice, bringing bad jokes and better role modeling, his own path straightening into community college and a mechanic gig. By 40, Evergreen called us back. Not for reunion, but reckoning. Coach Harlan's retirement bash, the field strung with lights like fireflies. Jordan spoke, arm around me, recounting tackles and tenderness. This town taught me to run toward, not away. The crowd, old teammates, graying cheerleaders, cheered, walls crumbling in applause. Our story, once whispered scandal, became legend. The boys who waited at lockers, who bet on hope. Betrayal's scar faded to silver thread, conflict to cautionary tale, climax to cornerstone. Humanistic in its imperfection, we stumbled, rose, loved louder. Now, at 45, with Luca off to college, art major, Natch, Jordan and I reclaim the cabin yearly. Fire crackling, his head on my lap, I sketch us. Lines softer, smiles deeper. Still my quiet hope? He murmurs, fingers interlaced. Always, I reply, sealing it with a kiss. In America's heartland sprawl, where dreams clash with dust, we prove love's not conquest, but constancy. Waiting, enduring, eternal.